This is the BioCentury Show.
Brought to you by the 5th East-West Biopharma Summit in South Korea. In March, explore how to globalize Asia innovation and connect with key players across Asia's innovation arc, from India to China to Japan.
Hello, and welcome to the BioCentury Show. I'm Selina Koch, Executive Editor at BioCentury, and today I'm joined by Naoki Okamura, who is President and CEO of Astellas Pharma, a multinational company headquartered in Japan. So welcome, Naoki.
Thank you, Selina. Very nice to meet you again.
Yeah, nice to see you. So I'm just going to jump right in here with a topic where I feel like Astellas is bucking an industry trend. So investors and other multinational companies have been getting out of cell and gene therapy, some stopping work on AAVs, some getting out of certain types of cell therapies. But Astellas has really stayed the course. So what's your thinking behind that decision?
So we are seriously committed to cell and gene therapy, and that continues to go. We have a relatively unique research and development approach, which is called focus area approach. And two of the primary focuses, which is the combination of the biology, modality, and the diseases, is about cell and gene therapy. Of course, there are many potential solutions to the devastating, diseases caused by damaged cells or defect in genes. But I do believe that replacing those damaged cells or sending the correct genes to the patient's body is the best solution to help those patients. So therefore, even though there are some challenges in the past and potentially ahead, but we are committed to solve these challenges one by one with innovation and technology. Of course, partnership plays a role in doing that, but we are committed to move them ahead.
Right. Well, like you said, some diseases will only be treatable that way, and the company who sticks it out might have an advantage there. But let's walk through some of those challenges. Safety has been a key issue for AAV therapies. Astellas lived that with its X-linked myotubular myopathy program. What are a couple of important lessons you took away from that? And as you go forward, how does that experience, affect your strategy, like where you're picking your shots in gene therapy?
Right. Talking about gene therapy, as you clearly mentioned, there's limitation of the AAV as a vector to send the transgene. We are trying to reduce the dosage itself by changing the ratio of the empty capsid and the full capsid. We are also using the recent technology to design the capsid to really target the, purposefully the specific organ for the disease, so that we can minimize the off-target toxicity. We are, also probably, reducing the dose by specifically targeting the organ. We are also using a very specific promoter so that the gene is activated, when, in the targeted cells. So, there are many different technologies to, improve the issues that we have with the AAV at this point in time, and that should go on and on. There is no, perfection. There's no completion of those innovations. Yeah.
In the meantime, do you think, are you focusing more on like the eye, where you can do a direct injection, or, is it influencing where in the body you treat, or?
Yeah. Eye is a good entry point for cell and gene therapy. Actually, our flagship project for cell therapy is targeting eye, but the flagship programs for gene therapy is actually Pompe disease. So it's a kind of systemic, administration, but at the same time, we're talking about the neuroscience type of, diseases by directly injecting, the drug to the brain, or we're using many different ways to solve the issues that we have with the current, AAV.
Gotcha. Well, so when you think across these different challenges, from the
Mm-hmm.
complex manufacturing to the tissue-specific delivery, like you just were just mentioning, and cell-specific to maybe redosing, things like that. Are
Right.
there areas where you think progress is going to happen faster than others?
I think that from the manufacturing standpoint, we have manufacturing sites in Sanford, North Carolina. We have a robust, manufacturing capabilities as well as capacity. We are using AI technologies to design the capsid itself, so it is moving faster than manually talking about the design. And actually, for the cell therapy, we have a robotic automation system co-created with Yaskawa Electric. They are the robotic company, and we recently received the FDA designation for this cell therapy, cell culture, automation platform.
So one more question on this topic before we move on, which is just for the smaller biotechs in the audience who might be working in cell therapy or gene therapy. Well, what are the kinds of technologies or assets that you might be looking for going forward?
Of course, if some assets can strengthen our existing portfolio, we would be happy to partner with the third parties. But at the same time, for example, the cell culture automation system, we created a joint venture with Yaskawa Electric, which is not necessarily asking people to collaborate with us. They can use our technology platform to move their programs forward. So we are trying to, contribute to, creating and, expanding the ecosystem, not only for Japan, on a global basis. So anyone who wants to move their program in cell and gene therapy forward, please contact us so that we may seek for potential opportunities to collaborate.
Very good. Okay, I'm going to switch gears a little bit to women's health because historically that's a very underserved area. It's one that we are trying to looking into more at BioCentury, and people are starting to get interested. And so Astellas is in a unique position because you launched a product, specifically one for a non-hormonal treatment for menopausal symptoms. So in principle, that should be a very large market, and it's certainly underserved. Yet my sense is that the launch hasn't been, just all smooth sailing. So give us a little insight into what that experience, that journey has been like for you.
Yeah. The product is called Veozah, which is indicated for vasomotor symptoms associated with menopause. We originally thought, because there is no very underserved market, and probably if we can tap into the patient awareness program and asking people to go to the doctors, probably they're going to receive those drugs. However, Veozah is one of the prescription medicine. It doesn't necessarily, it is not different from other prescription medicines. Therefore, we found out we had to take the step-by-step approach. First, we have to convince the prescribing physicians that Veozah is completely different non-hormonal therapy compared to the hormonal therapy, because there has been no meaningful treatment options for decades. They are not really, diagnosing patients or trying to treat patients. So therefore, we have to start from convincing prescribing physicians that Veozah is very effective, reasonably safe, and patient can benefit from taking this drug. Then we have to have the very complicated payer discussion, how it is structured, and if there is a good situation that physicians can prescribe because payer can support the prescription, then we have to ask patients to call on doctors. Otherwise, there's a frustration that, even patients can, ask doctors about Veozah. If doctor doesn't know about Veozah, it's a very embarrassing situation. So we have to follow the very traditional prescription medicine campaign that we start from physician. We have to ensure that payer coverage is there, and then we try to tap into patient pool with the disease awareness campaign, as well as how VIOZA works differently from very traditional hormonal therapy.
Right. So kind of staying away from direct to consumer.
We are doing direct to consumer, but it is not like doing TV ads, with many of the TV programs. No, we are very selectively, trying to capture the patient pool, and then provide the feedback from our activities or the engagement with the patients to make our campaign better in the later years.
Yeah. So I don't think you have any other women's health candidates in your pipeline right now, but if you were to go deeper into that field, what would you need to see in a candidate therapy and a technology, to commit?
So we are exploring innovation. So we are not doing Me Too type of drugs, because there are many other people who are good at doing that. So if we are to add something to the women's health franchise, it has to be very innovative. It has to go with the breakthroughs. It has to address the higher medical needs, rather than just simply drug to create the synergy with the existing product, VIOZA.
Yeah. Okay, well, we have to take a quick break. But when we get back, we will discuss Japan's evolving biotech ecosystem, Astellas' China strategy, and what you're doing to navigate loss of exclusivity for Xtandi. And we will be right back.
Sure.
The BioCentury Show is brought to you by the 5th East-West Biopharma Summit in South Korea. An arc of innovation is emerging across Asia, and Western biopharma leaders are taking note, from cross-border deals to new co's. In March 2026, the 5th BioCentury Bay Helix East-West Biopharma Summit visits South Korea for the first time. Meet the biopharma leaders putting Korea innovation on the global map. Learn why Korea has become a clinical trial and manufacturing hub. Discover if Korea is the next hotspot for new co-formation. Plus, meet biopharma innovators from India to Singapore to China and Japan. Register now at biocenturyeastwest.com.
Welcome back to BioCentury Show's discussion with Astellas CEO Naoki Okamura. So let's talk a little bit about Japan. So Astellas is a global company. You make drugs for people everywhere. Yet you are embedded in Japan's ecosystem. And so, what we've noticed over the years is that there have been many blockbuster drugs coming out of Japan and really great science. But a lot of the big drugs that come to mind are ones that have been sort of pioneered by the pharmas, the really big companies. Whereas Japan's biotech sector has struggled a little bit to kind of turn the strong science there into, competitive products. So from your vantage point, what do you think is the biggest thing right now holding back Japan's biotech sector?
In fact, academia in Japan has a lot of excellent C's from the scientific standpoint, but bringing this innovative science to become the pharmaceutical solution is a completely different story. And there is challenges. There is a challenge in Japan about talent fluidly moving around the different sectors: academia, industry, regulatory space. So that exactly is the biggest hurdle for ecosystem in Japan to be flourish. And it is not about money. Money can follow a good science, good assets, but it is all about how the C's can find a way to become, find a path to become a real pharmaceutical product. in order to do that, the startup companies needs the capabilities or the expertise or the knowledge or, of the pharmaceutical industry. And we are, ready to provide those expertise capabilities for those startups. We are trying to create, actually, we've created a very small joint venture to support those startups by using our expertise to make the good move on their programs. So we are trying to help Japanese ecosystem to become more visible so that they can move forward as the many other ecosystems, for example, in the US is doing at this point in time.
So you talked about earlier having sort of a resource for cell therapies that smaller companies could tap into. What are some of the other kind of ways that Astellas or the other pharmas in the region are providing sort of concrete help?
Yeah, so we have a joint venture with Takeda and Sumitomo Mitsui Banking Corporation, so that we have a kind of fund. But that is not all about money. It is about expertise that we have, and we can help those startups receiving the fund from that joint venture, so that they can have our expertise as additional resources for them to make the company move forward. We are also doing different kinds of academic collaboration that not only the science, but science can move on to product development with the pharmaceutical expertise.
Yeah, well, I think it's like the science strength and expertise in Japan, right? Obviously, cell and gene therapy comes to mind, and the country has invested a lot in the infrastructure there, in the regulatory pathways and things. Do you think it's time to put some of that energy into diversifying beyond cell and gene therapies? Would that be helpful in sort of kickstarting?
I think it is a little bit overemphasized. Japan is the place for cell and gene therapy. There are many different sciences, in Japan, and with the talent or the expertise provided for those science to become seeking for the path to a pharmaceutical product, I think it will be it will become more visible even from outside of Japan. Of course, most likely starting from Japan, venture capitals, looking for those assets. But my belief is once it becomes visible as the candidate for pharmaceutical product, anywhere in the world, venture capital can see those, potential seeds.
Yeah. So my colleague Jeff just wrote this really great story on the Japan ecosystem, and he mentioned in there some government incentives, like non-dilutive sort of matching of VC dollars, things like that. Do you feel like it sort of seemed like things could be poised for change? Does it feel like that?
Again, my personal belief is not, the challenge is not about money. Of course, that's going to give people incentives to think about it. But I think more importantly, talents moving across those boundaries to break the silos of, you are academia, we are industry, we are regulatory. That is most important, walls that we have to break.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, let's move on from Japan to China, because no discussion of drug development these days can avoid that topic. So obviously, China has become a major source of clinical assets, fast-moving biotechs. When you think about Astellas' strategy, how core has China become to you as like a destination for clinical trials, or as a partnering ecosystem, or is it equal parts both? Like how are you viewing the opportunities there?
Yeah, we completely agree. China has become one of the fastest epicenter for innovation. We see so many good science, coming from China now. It used to be, some of those companies in China helping us moving our programs for faster, but now they become the source of innovation for us. Therefore, of course, we are actively looking at all the assets in China from the business development standpoint. We recently opened the research and development center in Beijing to be part of those innovation ourselves. We've recently in-licensed one of the Claudin 18.2 ADC program from a Chinese company called EvoPoint. So we are very active in searching for some good things. We are trying to become part of Chinese innovation as well.
And okay, so you mentioned probably a biologic for cancer, and a lot of companies go there for that. Are you finding other kinds of potentially interesting assets or technologies, maybe beyond the obvious places of cancer and immunology?
Mm-hmm. Yes, we are very active, and we keep our very healthy appetite for good assets to strengthen our existing portfolio or existing product franchises. As I mentioned, because we have a gastric cancer drug called Vyloy, which is targeting Claudin 18.2, which is a relatively new target for cancer indications. As a follow-on program, as part of the immuno-oncology primary focus, we have the bispecific T-cell engager targeting Claudin 18.2. And on top of that, we in-licensed the Claudin 18.2 ADC to really dominate the Claudin 18.2 space in the gastric cancer space. And on top of that, we are very eager to get more assets in the oncology, including gastric, pancreatic, potentially urological things. We have the prostate cancer drug, we have bladder cancer drug. So there are multiple areas of interest in the cancer area. But not only for cancer, as I mentioned, we are pursuing innovation. If there is a very attractive innovation, breakthrough that may address the higher medical needs, potentially we can go into the new space to create another primary focus outside of our existing ones.
Okay, well, let's talk about Astellas's kind of near-term strategy. So large pharmas across the ecosystem seem to be all facing patent cliffs, right? We hear about this all the time, and Astellas is no different. For you, that means filling the shoes of Xtandi. So tell us a little bit about how you've prepared for that, and if there were like 1 or 2 milestones coming up this year that would let investors know that they could see them as evidence that you're navigating this post-Xtandi era well, what would those be?
Yes. So first of all, it is a privilege to have a $6 billion prostate cancer drug Xtandi, which in the course of its life cycle have served more than 1.3 million men, on a global basis. The Xtandi has made the significant differences in their lives. So it is a privilege. But every single product has the loss of exclusivity. And we knew years ago that that would come for Xtandi as well. Therefore, we intentionally, deliberately trying to build a portfolio of products rather than replacing $6 billion drug with another $6 billion drug. Now we have 5 strategic brands. Each of them has blockbuster potential. Padcev, the bladder cancer drug, Vyloy, the gastric cancer drug, Zospata for leukemia, Izervay for geographic atrophy, secondary to age-related macular degeneration, and Veozah for vasomotor symptoms for menopausal women. So those 5 strategic brands, not only for the top line, but from the bottom line perspective, will offset the loss of exclusivity for Xtandi in the next 5 years. Actually, we are in the final stage of creating the next round of 5-year corporate strategic plan, which we call Corporate Strategic Plan 2026, which will be launched in May this year. In that corporate strategic plan, we will make more visible how we can replace the Xtandi with all those 5 strategic brands. But those 5 strategic brands are not enough for the sustainable growth, of course. So we are trying to accelerate the clinical programs that come from our focus area approach, our unique research and development approach, so that they can go on top of those 5 strategic brands to ensure the sustainable growth for Astellas. One targeted protein degrader program number is ASP3082, has achieved the clinical proof of concept in pancreatic cancer as well as non-small cell lung cancer last year. So we are quickly moving into the registrational study for ASP3082. So this is one good example of how we can accelerate and build on top of our expertise to deliver more innovation to the marketplace. Another one is 2138, which is the bispecific T-cell engager targeting Claudin 18.2. We're waiting for the clinical POC at any minute now. We are, of course, in parallel, we have been preparing for the registrational trial for ASP2038, so that once we really declare the clinical POC, we can move very quickly to the registrational study. So those are the milestones that we're waiting for. And cell and genes, primary focuses as well. We have the flagship program that is waiting for the clinical POC judgment this particular quarter. So, we have a good, catalyst from a pipeline. We bring the 5 strategic brands forward, and actually the second quarter, for us, the second quarter is April to September last year. In aggregate, these 5 strategic brands grew 47% year over year. So we have the very strong growth from those strategic brands. We do believe this momentum continues to the 2026, and you can see clearly how we can achieve the strategic goal of replacing Xtandi LOE.
Are we likely to see you doing big deals for near-term growth drivers, or is what's the deal strategy going to look like this year and next year?
Yeah, that's a very frequently asked question, because everybody knows about the Xtandi, but we've decided that we don't do the rescue BD, which is to fill the dip in revenue, because that is simply cash for cash flow type of transaction, very expensive. There is very limited room for us to add value to the asset. So we will continue to invest for the much longer term growth, innovation, breakthrough, partnerships, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, sometimes there's more value in those earlier, smaller deals. Totally agree. All right. Well, that's been very informative. Thank you so much for your comments, Naoki. I really appreciate you being here. Thank you.
Thank you, Selina.
Brought to you by the 5th East-West Biopharma Summit in South Korea. In March, explore how to globalize Asia innovation and connect with key players across Asia's innovation arc, from India to China to Japan.
Kendall Square Orchestra provides the music for the BioCentury Show. The group connects science and technology professionals and other members of the greater Boston community to collaborate, innovate, and inspire through music while supporting causes related to healthcare and education.